Hello, my loves. Welcome back to another video on Starseed Academy. My name is Jenny. So I've created a little mini series for the Halloween season. Y'all know I love Halloween, and we did something really fun last year as well, but I have a bunch of videos that I wanted to do for you. So I decided to just make it into a series called Halloween Academy. You see what I did there? And so we're going to be starting with a story. We're going to be starting with an orb that just whooped right across my face. We're going to be starting with, hello, little orb. I love you. You're welcome here. I always say to talk to them whenever they do that because it's just a very lovely, welcoming thing to do. So I didn't want to forget. So we're going to start this series with a story about, I grew up in like a very haunted house, and I don't talk about it a lot. I have talked about it here or there, but I've never dedicated like a video to it. And I think that I've been kind of like toying with the idea of doing that, and I've even mentioned a couple times, God, I should make a video out of this, and just hadn't really gotten around to it yet. And so I thought, oh, this is literally the perfect time. So I'm going to kind of share just an interesting timeline and some of the events and just basically the story of growing up, what it's like to grow up in a really haunted house and the things that happened and what it created. I've just got a couple of notes here to help me to follow the timeline. I just thought of something else that I'm going to jot down. And I mean, of course, I always welcome your comments, and I hope that you're going to enjoy this new series because I have a lot of fun, spoopy things kind of planned for us to do together. Let me just write down this note. Okay, so before we jump into the story, I want to ask you to please subscribe because it really helps the channel, and I'm doing new videos every single week on Sundays. I think I'm probably going to do a couple of videos a week for the next little while because I want to get them all in before Halloween. And so this Halloween series, the Halloween Academy, it means that I'm going to be probably doing like maybe 3 videos a week, which is kind of what I used to do when we first started out here on YouTube. So make sure that you have your notifications turned on. Make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you are checking in because there's going to be a lot coming your way over the next 2 weeks. And I'm really excited about it. I've really been missing YouTube, and I've been so busy with everything with Starseed Academy and everything that it entails. And so I'm really happy to kind of just dedicate some time to be over here a little bit more. So let me know if you're excited. I just love you guys so much, and I'm so grateful for you all of my subscribers and everyone. If you're not subscribed and you're watching this, then I really think that you would just like love this channel. So think about subscribing, but if not, then, I'd love to hear your comments about what you think too, or even think about sharing the video so that other people can enjoy it. Okay, so we are going to jump in right away. So I grew up in a very haunted house, okay? So the house was from the mid-1800s. It was in Canada in a little town called Norwood in Ontario, okay? So right near, the biggest thing really kind of near it would be Peterborough. So if anyone knows what I'm even talking about, then let me know. But anyway, it was like a really cute little farming town, and they still have a fair every year, and lots of farmers, and this beautiful fair that comes to town every year, and just super quaint. The house that I lived in was built in the mid-1800s. It was directly beside a war cenotaph. So right beside our home was a cenotaph of one of the, I think, World War II. And so every Remembrance Day, the whole town would gather like pretty much like right in front of our house for this large, like, cenotaph just means like a big statue for the war. Behind the cenotaph was the water tower for the town. And then beside all of that was our home, which was on a huge stone wall, okay? Because there was a sidewalk in front of it, and then a huge stone wall, and then our house pretty much on top of this stone wall. And behind our house was just, our entire backyard was a very steep hill, right? So the whole thing was kind of like sloping downwards, and then there was this big stone wall. And then on the other side of that super steep hill, if you walked up the hill and went over it, just on the other side of that was a cemetery. So we had a lot of interesting things kind of happening all around this house. Now, the realtor, when we first moved into this house, I was in grade two, I think. And we kept that house. My parents kept this house like my whole life until I was well into my 20s when they sold it. But we didn't always live there full time. So I moved around a lot. So I lived there for grade two, half of grade three. Then we moved back and forth to Toronto a lot. Then we moved to Toronto for about a half a year, maybe a year. And then back for grade 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, I think. And then I was back to Toronto to finish out my schooling for grade 10, 11, 12 kind of thing. So it was like very back and forth a lot, but it was always in my life. And so I've had a lot of different experiences with the energy of this house for sure. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to share was that the realtor sold this to my parents. Is very obviously old house, okay? Over 100 years old when we got it. The realtor said that it was a doctor's office. So, I mean, that doesn't sound spooky, right? Why would you not want to buy a doctor's office? Like, that sounds fine. I mean, it was a doctor's office and then converted into a home. And I remember the people that we bought it from, it felt like they were like, I mean, I was really young, it was grade 2, but I just remember feeling like, are these hippies? Because I remember like the way that they decorated and just the way that they were. It just felt like they were hippies. They had a water bed and they had like, when you're going to see the house, they had just like a very hippie vibe. So I don't know if they had anything to do with this or if it was just the house itself. Okay, so because the cemetery was just over the hill, this is where my psychic gifts really started coming online. So the first thing that really happened was I was seeing mist a lot. Like I was seeing mist and nobody else was seeing it. I was seeing it in the cemetery, and I was seeing it sometimes in the house. And I didn't know what I know now is that when I see mist, it is like an earthbound spirit, which is what people call a ghost. Okay, so a soul that did not cross over when it passed away and it became earthbound. So that's a lot of what I was starting to experience was this weird mist. Among other things, I was really also having clairaudience come online and hearing strange things. So one of the first things that happened that had my whole family questioning, what did we just do when we bought this house and moved in here? Was my dad was really into motorcycles. He was like, it was his thing. And he wheeled his motorcycle out onto the lawn. There was like a small flat section right beside the house, but then it turned into that really steep hill. And he put it right beside. So on the right side of the house, there was a tiny little section of flat land, which was on top of that stone wall. And then the rest was all super steep uphill. So he wheeled his motorcycle onto this little section of flat land and he was going to wash his motorcycle with the hose and everything. And he got it set up and the kickstand ready to go. And then he walked away and the ground collapsed. And the ground collapsed like in the shape of a coffin, like the perfect shape of that. And like, that was the first thing that my parents thought too. So it must've been pretty obvious. Again, I was pretty young. And that was very strange and had them looking into calling the realtor, calling, maybe the town clerk and stuff, whatever, what's going on with the history of this house? What was this really like for there to be like this perfect now indent in our property and the cemetery's right there? What was this really? And so upon further research, it turned out that it was a doctor's office, but in the olden days, a lot went down at the doctor's office, including keeping bodies after they died in what they called a mourning room. So if somebody died, it almost is like a doctor's office and a funeral parlor almost at the same time, because they had this mourning room and they would put the body in there and then the family could come and see it before it got brought to the cemetery. Now they had some kind of a chain pulley system to take these caskets up the hill. And so the person dies, they're in our home. And I mean, I would like a little more, like I'm a little lack on details of how patients became, you know, like cadavers or these corpses that were then in the home still. And the room that we had, or that they said was the morning room, was directly under my sister's bedroom, and which is creepy because her room is always super active with ghost activity. It was on the main floor of the house. On the top floor of the house was just our 2 bedrooms. And on the main floor of the house, this was like a spare room way off that kind of didn't make sense. It was way off in the corner. It was kind of small too. So we didn't really use it for anything. Threw a bed in there and made it into a spare room. Okay, so we found out that it was a mourning room and that they had this pulley system, and they would pull the caskets up the hill with like a chain or something. Maybe not underground, but like for whatever reason, that's what the ground did when my dad put his bike there. So some kind of, built-in thing that they tried to fill over, I guess, with dirt. Okay, so now I really can't say to continue without just kind of sharing this one thing. Low frequencies, low emotional vibrations will always make ghost activity stronger. It gives them life. So if your home is filled with fear or anger or rage, it will give more zest to those kinds of beings. Ghosts or dark spirits or whatever you want to think of it, or all of the above. They kind of feed on that stuff. And so I do want to mention that because we were definitely living in that kind of an environment. So my mom had signed up for this cult-like religion called Jehovah's Witnesses at the time, which was all about fear mongering and demons are going to get you. And then my dad was actually like very, very unhappy person. And so he was super depressed and he was taking it out on the family, and he was very abusive. He was an alcoholic, and he was very violent, and he was very violent with all of us, and very abusive emotionally, verbally, physically. So we were living in fear from this religious cult and from my father. And then on top of that, my mom was kind of like cracking under the pressure of all of this stress and was really struggling with her mental health. So my sister and I really just kind of felt like we didn't have a safe place. The house itself, both parents, the religion, and we were just consumed by those things. And all of them were low vibrational. All of them had to do with fear and abusiveness. So you can just imagine that we were filled with low frequencies, and we were absolutely making all of it bigger, right? Like not on purpose, but it was such a heightened environment emotionally, right? So things that happened in the upstairs, because I spent obviously most of my time like in my room or in my sister's room. And those 2 rooms, like I said, the upstairs was like really the hotspot of activity. Now, whether that's because of the morning room being directly below, or we also found this creepy, weird tunnel that connected our rooms. This sounds like a movie. I'm not even kidding. So in my room, I had this weird little short door that no human would really be able to fit through. Like a kid, maybe. It was like really small door and it was wooden, and it had like a little handle. And my sister had the exact same one. And then if you open them, you could poke your head in and look at each other. And it was like a tunnel that connected the 2 rooms. I have no idea what that was. This was a very old house. Maybe they used it for storage. I really don't know. But it had a whole kind of vibe to it, like super creepy. So some of the things that my sister and I were experiencing and not telling each other about. Now, we didn't really get along so well because she thought I was just like a really big loser. She was older than me, and I guess we were very different. She was really into like fashion and clothing and being popular. And I was not. I was like the biggest nerd. And I really just like read all the time. I just read books. So she just really didn't want anything to do with me. So we didn't tell each other that we were both experiencing similar things until we were like adults later, basically. And that's so funny because I think that this happens a lot where people can be living in the same home and not really understanding what the other person is going through or even sharing stuff. Like, imagine if we had just told each other. I don't know if that would have changed anything, but anyway, we didn't. So we later told each other that we would get these weird thoughts in our heads that we knew weren't ours, like thoughts coming into your head out of nowhere that were either really scary or really inappropriate, because we were like we were pretty young little girls, and it would be maybe like sexually inappropriate, and definitely not coming from me, and definitely not coming from her at the time either. And we both remember being very bewildered by this. And I've heard of stuff like that before, but I've never really shared that part of the story. But it was really scary, actually. Like it was straight up just scary, and it felt dark, felt really dark. Okay, so thoughts out of nowhere. I would hear scratching, especially when I tried to go to sleep at night, scratching like on the floor, or under my bed, or in my closet, or just outside my door, like really creepy scratching sounds. Um, like a bit of stomping around sounds, tapping, knocking, laughter, but like not nice laughter, like someone's making fun of you, like laughter, like ha ha, like, not nice. And then one thing that happened that more than just me was there to experience was my sister, being the popular girl that she was, had lots of friends, and she had a sleepover of girls, and they were all in her room living it up, right? Like keeping the ghost awake too, I'm sure. And I was alone in my room trying to sleep just with the lights out, kind of just listening to them. And one of her friends came into my bed and kind of jumped into bed with me, and was just being really sweet and asking, what was new or whatever. And because she had known my family for a long time. And I said to her, there's some really weird sounds happening in my room and I'm scared. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, I don't know, just lay here with me for a little bit and listen. And as soon as I said that, at the foot of my little bed, this huge belch went off, like a huge burp went off. And so she screamed and ran out of the room and left me there by myself. And so like it really freaked out even somebody that was like a teenage, like much older than me. I was just a kid. One other super scary thing that happened was I remember being able to, like, because these psychic abilities were really coming online, I remember being able to like sense that it was just one spirit, one ghost, and that it was a boy. And that it was almost like a teenager, young man, like you could feel the personality of that. And I used to be able to sense where it was and try to avoid that area of the house, really without even knowing that you're doing it. And I remember laying in bed, and I was laying on my right side, on my right ear, and I was facing the wall away from the door. And I felt it, didn't see, but felt it like come into the room like this, like floating into the room. And I remember being like, oh no, here it comes. Ooh, I even just get chills thinking that I could feel it on its way to me. And it flew over my ear, and it exhaled directly into my ear, and it went like into my ear. And I was just like, I think I died for a second. I went just cold. It was so scary. And it was just like tormenting and teasing us, right? And getting a real rise out of that. Like, why would it burp at a girl's slumber party? Why would it continue to like really bother me at night and torture me? It was just really getting a rise out of my fear. And like I said, the fear feeds it. So I went for a very long time not being able to sleep without like the covers over my ears. Like after that, it was like maybe over the whole head for a while, but then at least over the ears, because I never wanted to have that feeling ever again. And the other things that were happening was just like feeling watched constantly. When it was in the room with you, you would feel dizzy or even sick to your stomach. And I was having a lot of night terrors of dark things. And yeah, just all the time. And so here's like the main event. Okay. The main event that happened that brought everything to an ugly head. So what happened was I tried smoking like cigarettes. I've grown up at this point, and I think I'm 12 years old at this point. And I tried smoking cigarettes, and I told my sister, and she told on me. Not cool. She told my mom, and my mom was really at this point now quite a few years deep into this cult. And it was really, she was very like fanatical, because she was struggling with her own mental health. And then this cult was also very extreme. So the two things together was just very toxic. And so my sister told on me that I had tried smoking, and my mom decided that like her daughter wouldn't do that. Like there's no way that her daughter, her sweet Jenny, would ever try smoking or anything like that. So I must be possessed, by the devil, because, her daughter would never do that, as one, would normally come to the conclusion of course, right? What else could it be? So this actually led to my mom trying to perform an exorcism on me in our living room by herself, like in a very shaky emotional and mental state, because she was very upset when she found that out, and she was very angry at me, and she was also very convinced that I had a darker problem because I would never do that, but I totally just did that. So what happened was, during the exorcism, she was being really aggressive, and I kind of, like, when I would experience abuse by my father or her, I would kind of just like leave my body. Like as a kid, you can maybe do that a little bit easier. It's almost like the feeling of when someone goes into shock, you're just like not really there because it's too much. It's too much. All of it together, the stuff that I was going through was all just too much. And so I would leave my body and to protect myself in a way, but unfortunately your physical body does actually really hold on to a lot of that, and your subconscious too, right? So it is still really traumatizing and causes a lot of problems. But regardless, at this point, I feel like I kind of had just left my body a little bit, and because I was a little bit in shock. And what happened was that spirit that lived in our house saw what was going on, and I think in its own weird way, it was trying to protect me, and it actually came through me. It came through me, and I remember hearing myself saying things that I felt like I was in the back of myself, like in the back of my own mind, and I was like, what? And I remember hearing myself say to her, you don't know her, leave her alone. And then it actually pushed her, which I didn't know. I didn't push her physically with my hands. I just said those words. And then my mom said later, she told me something pushed her, something invisible, not my body. And it kind of like came through me. So it just kind of was passing through really quickly, said a couple of things, and then pushed her away from me. And she tried to like draw for me later, which I wish she didn't do, but she tried to draw for me later what she saw or what it looked like, and it was really quite creepy. I did not see what she saw. I did not know that she got pushed. But so yeah, that was like the event of my childhood. That was something that, I mean, we were healing from that for decades, for sure. But that whole experience did not help my case of not being evil, right? And it made everyone like afraid of me for a little bit. My mom, my dad, my sister, and even myself. I remember like being afraid to really look deeply into my own eyes in the mirror for a bit. It really, really messed with me because I thought that I was bad or evil somehow. And I really didn't understand the spirit world and how fear and those lower frequencies strengthen things, and how you can kind of like leave your body and leave space for something to kind of come through. And so I that was the biggest thing that ever happened. And then I remember like when I was old enough to like move out, like move away. And remember I said we moved to the city too, so I really wasn't there in my older teenage years, which I think is a blessing. And then when I moved back to the area as an adult, my mom and dad still had the house. And I remember that they said, oh, we're coming down on the weekend from the city. Would you mind going and getting it ready for us, like doing some vacuuming or doing some cleaning and whatever? And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like a little like, oh, is that going to be weird? But I was kind of like, you don't really know how much is real when you're a kid. So I went back as an adult. And the second I stepped into that house, my gifts were so much stronger at this point. And I remember stepping in through the kitchen, and the staircase that came down from where my bedroom, my sister's bedroom would have been, came out into the kitchen. And I remember looking at that staircase and seeing and feeling and knowing like all the things that it was standing there looking at me. And I heard its thoughts, and it was thinking about, whoa, like she's gotten older. Like she's grown. And it was like putting together time and who I was. And I was like, that was like too much for me. You know what I mean? Like that was a lot. I do think I tried to clean for my mom anyways, but I was really afraid to go upstairs. And when I did go upstairs, I remember I had the vacuum. It was like a really loud vacuum. It was like a shop vac. And it was the loud noise of the vacuum and like that, the feeling of now I'm in the room where it is. I almost passed out. Like I remember feeling so hot and so sick to my stomach and so dizzy. I was like, and I had to like leave the vacuum there and just leave. And I was like, wow. And it really confirmed for me all the things that I experienced as a child. And I was like, you know what? I'm not crazy. Like I literally just went into that house and I couldn't even be in that room. Like I was so ill. I was so dizzy. I was ready to, like, that feeling like you don't know if you're going to faint or vomit. Like it was so bad. So that's the end of my story about my house. And I just want to say that sometimes we would put something like that into our soul contracts as like an initiation, even though it was a really awful experience for many, many years. And it really like took a lot for me to heal from all of that and to lose the fear that I had. It was like an initiation into the spirit realm though, because you know, that's where I first started sensing spirit. That's where I first started hearing spirit. Of course, it was a negative experience, but it was a strong one. And it also really pushed me to overcome my fear because I was so angry really about that situation for so many decades. I say decades because it was like it was messing me up for a long time. But I remember being like, I'm not going to live like this. I'm not going to live afraid of ghosts or dark spirits. And I'm not going to be in that religion. And I'm not going to buy into this bullshit. I'm going to find out the truth. And I went on a seeker's path, seeking and really like obsessively like researching near-death experiences, ghosts, what happens when you die, all these things, until I found a set of belief systems that really supported me. And I was able to now I had this foundation that I could rise from because I was sinking before, right? So anyway, that's my story. I'm going to leave it there. I don't want this video to be too long. And I just wanted to say thank you for tuning in. Make sure that you are subscribed. There's more videos coming in this Halloween Academy series. If you want to hang out with me on a more like fun, lighthearted, personal way, please think about joining the Starseed Academy membership. We have so many fun events over there every single month, including this month. And there is a community chat, live events every month, 2 live events every month with me, and a huge resource library of trainings and never before seen videos. It's all like just for the membership, and it's masterclasses, trainings, videos like never before seen on any other platform. So if you like my vibe and if you love this channel, you will love it over there. The value that you receive is so incredible every single month. There's also contests to win readings with me, like everything's happening over there. And if you would like more personal one-on-one time with me and don't want like a group experience, then check out my links in bio to book a session. I love you all so much. And before we go, I just want to remind you to listen to your heart and the quiet voice within, because you are so much more than the body you are in. I love you, beautiful star seeds. Have a great day. Bye.